Back to our breaking news. According to two senior officials, President Trump is poised to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement, which would make the United States the sole major Western power not to sign on. The U.S. would join Syria and Nicaragua, the only other nation, 147 other countries. You see the map there for yourself. Moments ago, we saw the president, this brief public appearance with the prime minister of Vietnam. President Trump would only say that his decision is coming, quote, very soon. So let me turn now to the civil rights icon, Andrew Yang, to be appointed U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, former mayor of Atlanta, former congressman from Georgia, current chairman of the Andrew J. Young Foundation. Mr. Ambassador, as an Atlanta native, it is such an honor and a privilege to have you on.
Well, it's good to be with you.
So let's just begin with this Paris news. First, just your reaction to hearing that President Trump is expected to withdraw from the Paris Agreement.
Well, remember, I was part of the UN where this whole international agreement, law of the sea, climate change, and all of this was discussed. But really, that doesn't really, that's an intellectual argument. I think the argument I would like to see us address is the floods in Missouri and Arkansas. And we have along the Mississippi River, and our foundation has been working with the mayors of 75 cities and 36 states. President Trump carried 34 of those. But those cities are about to flood. And nobody has touched the Mississippi River since I was born almost, in 1936. And the damage done from Iowa all the way down to Louisiana every year is in the tens and 20 billions of dollars. I think we're going to have to focus on that. And then people will say, well, wait a minute. This has never happened quite like this before. Why is it happening now? Then we get into the real issues pertaining to climate change. But we have to have a solution. And what I think we'll find is that all of the solutions to almost any problem we face is a global solution. And we still have a nation that's thinking nationalistically. Now, President Trump's problem is that he really does live economically in a global economy. All of his business is global. But his mind is national. And the people who voted for him thought that there might be a quick international solution that would make all of these great problems go away. It just ain't so.
Well,
but
Mr. Ambassador,
it doesn't matter. I mean, we shouldn't. I get concerned that we've been distracted by the personalities that make the news every day. And we don't have anybody like, say, Ralph McGill, who used to keep us on point every day. There were 11,000 editorials about race that made the South face up to race. We don't have anybody calling us back to those issues that we're going to have to deal with. That's what our foundation's been trying to do also.
I promise I want to ask you about that, but if I can just stay on to your point about the folks along the Mississippi River, when you hear from the White House, it's all about jobs. The president, if you can you hear me?
I can hear you very good.
Okay. The president is saying that by potentially pulling out of this Paris Accord, that this would mean job growth for Americans, that he is thinking domestically, that this is, making good on a promise he made his supporters out on the campaign trail. Your response to that? My
response to that is the Mississippi River, 36 states, six cities from all of top to bottom, and that's where the job problem is. It's got little or nothing to do with Paris. And I think if you focused on the people that voted for you, and not the commentary and the discord that was generated by this campaign, but there were some real people who are concerned about real issues, whose homes are flooding and who are going to flood. It was almost $60 billion worth of damage, of flood damage. Preventing that flood damage would create jobs. Now, New Orleans has done it. New Orleans put the casino and the convention center. To do that, they had to put down 100, 150 feet of concrete and steel. It protects the river, it creates the jobs, it's the lifeline of New Orleans' tourism economy, and use worldwide money to deal with national problems.
Yes, sir. If I may ask you about civility and politics, you know, you served federal, local government. We were watching recently the shoving match broke out on this Texas House floor. We saw Amon King. It's not the worst you have seen, but how bad is it now in your eyes?
Well, the bad thing is that it seems to be acceptable. And this is where the president and his close associates have set a rather bad example. That this talk tough, and I think we get, you know, much closer together when, I mean, I grew up in New Orleans with the Nazi Party on the corner. The first lesson I learned from my father was, this is a sickness, Nazism. But you don't get mad at it. You have to get smart. And you have to protect yourself from this kind of hatred. But don't get caught up in the hatred and tit for tat. You lose your temper in a fight, and you lose the fight. Now, there are lots of people who are so frustrated they're losing their tempers. And they're taking it out not only on people of different colors and religions, they're taking it out on their own families. And the anxiety and frustration of our nation is really not political only. I mean, we're scared. We're scared of the world in which we live. And part of our message is that we don't have to be afraid. I mean, I was a child at Pearl Harbor, and that was something to be afraid of. They were sinking American ships right off the coast of Georgia. But Franklin Roosevelt said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And all of a sudden the country was put at ease. And we went through Pearl Harbor after that, and we've had crisis. Every crisis of violence and bloodshed in the civil rights movement was a potential for blowing up, and everybody was wondering, when is the violence coming? Well, we understood that violence destroys, and we were trying to learn to live together as brothers and sisters. And nobody was to blame. We were born into a mess of a world. And we don't have to blame anybody on what we have. We have to use the common consensus and intelligence and research and the labor of ordinary people to solve our problems.
Right. Which applies in a different sense today in America in 2017. Andrew Young, Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much. Those are words to hang on to now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.